The summer I turned pretty is about to turn into something none of us were ready for, and if you thought Belly's Paris adventure was dramatic enough, wait until you see what's coming in Season 3, Episode 10. This is not just another chapter in Belly's messy love triangle, this is the turning point that will decide her entire future, the future of Conrad, the future of Jeremiah, and honestly, the entire Fisher family. The trailer teases heartbreak, reunions, and a shocking twist that fans have been waiting years for. So let's break down exactly what this episode is setting up, because trust me, this is not just another love story anymore. This is war between the heart and the mind, and Belly is right at the center of it. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is Belly herself, because let's be honest, she has been through absolute chaos in this season. From almost getting married, to flying across the world, to having her bag stolen, to suddenly living her Parisian dream, she has been everywhere emotionally, and episode 10 is where everything finally comes crashing down. Belly has tried to run from her problems, she has tried to reinvent herself in Paris, she has even pretended like her past with Conrad and Jeremiah doesn't haunt her anymore. But the truth is, no matter how far she runs, her heart keeps dragging her back to the Fishers. That is why the trailer is so important, because we see Belly standing at a crossroads that is bigger than anything we have seen before. The biggest question in episode 10 is simple. Is Belly really over Conrad, or has she been lying to herself this whole time? We saw how the French guy entered the picture, how he impressed her, how he gave her a glimpse of a new life, but when he leans in to kiss her, everything changes. That single moment cracks Belly's mask wide open. Suddenly, the cool, confident Parisian version of Belly is gone, and what's left is the same girl who still aches for Conrad Fisher. It doesn't matter how much fun she has in Paris, or how many friends she makes, or how exciting her new life looks. When her heart betrays her like that, we know the truth. Belly has never stopped loving Conrad. And that is exactly what this trailer hints at. Because Conrad is about to return, and this time he won't just be sending letters, he will be standing right in front of her. But here's where things get even messier. Conrad is not coming alone. As we already know from the filming leaks, Jeremiah is also in Paris, and that changes everything. For seasons, Jeremiah has been the one to put his heart on the line for Belly, and now we're supposed to believe that he's not only okay with Conrad swooping in, but he's even giving his blessing? That's what the trailer teases, and honestly, it feels almost impossible to imagine. After all the heartbreak, after all the tears, after all the fights between these two brothers, can Jeremiah really just step aside? Or is there something deeper happening here that we don't see yet? Because let's be honest, nothing in this show ever happens without drama. And if Jeremiah is back in Paris, there's no way he won't be part of the final decision Belly has to make. The trailer gives us just enough to spark the biggest question of the season. Will Belly finally choose Conrad once and for all, or will Jeremiah's presence force her to confront the truth she's been avoiding? Episode 10 is shaping up to be the episode where the triangle doesn't just twist, it explodes. Because this isn't just about romance anymore. It's about trust, loyalty, and the scars that will never heal unless someone finally makes peace. And the scary part is, Belly is the one holding all the power. Whatever decision she makes in this episode will either bring the Fisher brothers back together or break them apart forever. And honestly, the trailer makes it clear. This is the most dangerous decision Belly has ever faced. If Section 1 was all about Belly's emotions boiling over, then the next layer we need to uncover is the Fisher brothers themselves, because Episode 10 is not just Belly's story. It is the showdown between Conrad and Jeremiah that has been brewing since the very beginning of the series. And the trailer makes it clear they are not done with each other, not even close. Think about it. Conrad has always been the quiet storm, holding his feelings close, protecting Belly from a distance, and yet in the moment when Belly truly needed clarity, he hesitated. That hesitation cost him everything, and Jeremiah was the one who stepped in, offering her consistency, honesty, and the kind of love that doesn't hide behind walls. But now, in Paris, Conrad is ready to break those walls down, and Jeremiah is right there, watching him do it. Can you imagine the tension in that moment? It's like watching two forces collide, both fighting for the same heart, but in completely different ways. And here's the shocking part the trailer hints at. Jeremiah might not even fight this time. Yes, you heard that right. For the first time in years, Jeremiah looks like he is ready to step aside, to let Conrad and Belly face their truth together. But this isn't just about generosity or brotherly love. This is about exhaustion. Jeremiah has been carrying this triangle for so long, trying to prove his worth, trying to keep his relationship with Belly alive, and maybe, just maybe, episode 10 is where he finally realizes that forcing love never works. Does that mean he's giving up? Not exactly. It means Jeremiah is finally facing the painful reality that Belly's heart was never fully his, no matter how much she tried to convince herself. And if that is true, then Jeremiah's choice to step aside is not just an act of kindness. It's an act of surrender that could change the Fisher family forever. But let's not pretend this is going to be neat or clean, because nothing ever is in this series. Even if Jeremiah gives his blessing, even if he tells Conrad to go after Belly, we all know the truth. Wounds like these don't heal overnight. The Fisher brothers have been at war for years, and their relationship has been built on resentment, competition, and heartbreak. Episode 10 is not going to magically erase all of that. Instead, what we will see is a fragile truce, one that could collapse at any moment. Because let's face it, the second Belly chooses Conrad, and let's be honest, the trailer is hinting very strongly that she will. Jeremiah will have to live with the fact that he lost her, not because he didn't love her enough, but because she simply didn't love him back the same way. That is a wound that might never close, no matter how many times he says he's fine. And this is where the suspense really takes over, because episode 10 is not just about who Belly ends up with, it's about what happens after. How do Conrad and Jeremiah rebuild their bond after years of rivalry? How do they stand in the same room without remembering every fight, every tear, every time Belly came between them? The trailer teases us with moments of brotherly understanding, almost as if they're ready to forgive each other, but deep down we know the cracks are still there. The question is whether Belly's final choice will make those cracks deeper or finally force them to heal. And honestly, that's why episode 10 feels so monumental, because it's not just the climax of Belly's love story, it's the climax of the Fisher brothers' entire journey. If you thought Belly's heart was complicated before, episode 10 is about to prove that we have only scratched the surface. What makes this episode so fascinating is not just the romantic triangle. It's the way the story forces Belly to confront every decision she's made, every lie she's told herself, and every time she tried to outrun her feelings. Because, let's be real, Belly has been playing a dangerous game this entire season, pretending that Paris could fix her, pretending that distance could erase her memories of Conrad, and pretending that she could build a brand new version of herself without dealing with the wreckage of her past. But here's the thing about running away. Sooner or later, life catches up with you. And in episode 10, that's exactly what happens. Because Conrad and Jeremiah are not just symbols of Belly's past. They are her present and her future, and she can no longer escape them. Now, let's talk about Paris, because this setting is not just a pretty backdrop for selfies and romance. It's the battlefield where everything explodes. Paris has always been painted as the city of love in American shows. But in this case, it feels more like the city of reckoning. Belly thought she could come here and reinvent herself, but the truth is, Paris has stripped her bare. Think about it. The stolen bag, the failed school acceptance, the impulsive decisions, the reckless chase into dangerous parts of the city. Every single thing that happened here has forced Belly to realize that she is not invincible, that her choices have consequences, and that no matter how hard she tries to act grown up, she is still figuring out who she really is. And now, just when she starts to rebuild her life, just when she starts to feel like she belongs in Paris, her entire past crashes into the city with Conrad and Jeremiah's arrival. Paris becomes the stage for Belly's ultimate decision. And honestly, that's what makes this episode so nerve-wracking. It's not just about who she chooses, it's about whether she's strong enough to finally stop running and face herself. The trailer gives us tiny glimpses of this breakdown, and it's enough to leave fans on edge. We see Belly torn between laughter and tears, between joy and panic, between the fantasy of moving on and the reality of still being tethered to Conrad. That's why the French guy matters here. Not because he's a serious love interest, but because he acts as a mirror, showing Belly that she can try all she wants to start over, but deep down, her heart still belongs to Conrad. When he leans in to kiss her and she flinches, it's not just about romance. It's about the undeniable truth that no amount of Parisian magic can rewrite her heart. And this is where the suspense reaches its peak, because the audience knows what Belly refuses to say out loud. She is still in love with Conrad, and nothing is going to change that. But here's the twist that makes episode 10 so unpredictable. Conrad is not the only Fisher in Paris. Jeremiah's presence changes everything. For years, fans have debated who Belly truly belongs with, and Jeremiah has always been the safe choice, the one who wears his heart on his sleeve, the one who never makes her question his feelings. But in Paris, Jeremiah doesn't come to fight. He comes to surrender. At least, that's what the trailer suggests, because instead of battling Conrad for Belly's love, Jeremiah seems almost resigned, as if he knows the outcome already. And that resignation is both heartbreaking and powerful. It's heartbreaking because we've watched Jeremiah pour everything into Belly, only to realize that he was always the second choice. But it's powerful because it shows growth. Jeremiah is no longer willing to fight for someone whose heart isn't fully his. And that maturity might be the one thing that saves his relationship with Conrad. Still, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We know Jeremiah well enough to understand that his emotions run deep, and even if he says he's okay, even if he smiles and gives Conrad his blessing, the pain will still linger. And that's where the true suspense lies. Not in whether Belly chooses Conrad, but in how Jeremiah reacts once she does. Because think about it. Jeremiah has built his entire identity around being the one who was there for Belly when Conrad wasn't. He was the shoulder to cry on, the constant presence, the loyal friend turned boyfriend. To suddenly let go of all that, to simply step aside and watch Conrad and Belly get their happy ending, would require superhuman strength. And as much as Jeremiah has grown, as much as he wants to be the bigger person, Episode 10 might still expose the cracks in his armor. The tension between the brothers is what elevates this storyline beyond a simple love triangle. The trailer hints at moments of reconciliation, moments where Conrad and Jeremiah seem ready to put their rivalry behind them. But let's be honest, this is not going to be a smooth ride. Decades of bitterness don't disappear overnight, and Belly's decision could very easily reopen old wounds. That's what makes episode 10 so nerve-shattering. No matter what happens, someone will walk away hurt. If Belly chooses Conrad, Jeremiah loses more than a girlfriend. He loses the belief that his love was enough. If Belly chooses Jeremiah, Conrad loses the one person he's loved quietly but fiercely for years. And if Belly chooses no one, the brothers are left with the scars of fighting over her, wondering if it was all for nothing. This is why fans are so desperate for answers, because episode 10 holds the power to either heal or destroy everything we've been watching since season 1. And let's not forget about Belly herself, because while all eyes are on Conrad and Jeremiah, she is the one whose growth has been the most fragile. Episode 10 is her ultimate test. Does she choose comfort or passion, safety or risk, the brother who never left, or the brother who always stayed hidden until it was almost too late? These are not just romantic choices. They are reflections of who Belly is becoming. Paris has changed her, but the question is whether it has made her wiser or just more confused. The trailer teases her tears, her hesitations, her moments of clarity followed by moments of doubt, and that's what makes her so human. She is not perfect, she is not fully grown, and she is still learning how to live with her mistakes. But the audience knows one thing for sure. Episode 10 will not let her escape without making the hardest decision of her life. What makes this even more thrilling is the pacing. The trailer makes it clear that episode 10 will feature massive time jumps, showing us not just a single night or a single week, but months of Belly's life as she navigates her new world in Paris. That means we're not just getting one confrontation or one kiss, we're getting a sweeping story that condenses years of growth, heartbreak, and reconciliation into a single episode. This is why the suspense is unbearable, because the writers don't have time to drag things out anymore. Every moment counts, every decision matters, and the climax is closer than ever. By the time the credits roll, we will not just know who Belly chooses, we will know who she is. And honestly, that's why fans are on edge right now. The Summer I Turned Pretty has always been about love, but at its core, it's about growing up. It's about the painful process of realizing that love doesn't fix everything, that family can break your heart just as much as it can heal it, and that growing into adulthood means facing choices that don't have easy answers. Episode 10 embodies all of that: the love, the pain, the growth, the heartbreak. The trailer is just a tease, but it's enough to tell us that we are heading into the most explosive and emotional episode of the entire series. And now, we arrive at the endgame, the point where all the chaos, heartbreak, and longing finally collide in episode 10. This is where The Summer I Turned Pretty stops being just another teen drama and becomes the emotional wrecking ball it was always destined to be. The trailer doesn't give away everything, of course, but the pieces are all there, and when you connect them, you realize that episode 10 is not about who Belly kisses or who she spends the night with. It's about who she chooses to become. Because make no mistake, this decision will define her not just as a girlfriend, but as a woman who is finally stepping into her own identity after years of being caught in the middle of someone else's war. The most powerful part of this final showdown is the silence. Those quiet moments where Belly is forced to look at Conrad and Jeremiah and finally admit what her heart has been screaming all along. Does she want the safe warmth of Jeremiah, the boy who has always been there to catch her when she falls? Or does she want the impossible storm of Conrad, the boy who may break her heart again, but who she knows she can never stop loving? These are not choices you make lightly, and the trailer shows Belly trembling under the weight of it. That trembling is not weakness. It's the sign of someone who finally understands the magnitude of her decision, and honestly, that's what makes this episode feel so different from the rest. It's not about summer crushes anymore. It's about love in its rawest, most terrifying form. But let's be brutally honest here. No matter what Belly decides, someone is going to walk away broken. If she chooses Conrad, Jeremiah has to carry the unbearable truth that he was never enough, even when he gave everything. If she chooses Jeremiah, Conrad will once again be forced to live with the pain of watching the love of his life belong to someone else. And if Belly chooses no one, then both brothers are left shattered, wondering if all their sacrifices, all their fights, all their late-night confessions were for nothing. That's why this episode is so heavy, because the story is no longer just about Belly's happiness, it's about the cost of love, and whether the Fisher family can survive it. And this is where King Fisher himself, Mr. Fisher, comes back into play, at least in spirit. Remember how he once told Conrad to give Jeremiah space, to let things heal naturally? Well, episode 10 seems to be the moment where that advice finally pays off. Jeremiah's willingness to step aside, to let Conrad and Belly face their truth without interference, is not just a moment of brotherly sacrifice. It's a reflection of his father's wisdom. A sign that Jeremiah is no longer just the fiery, impulsive boy we met in Season 1. He is a man who understands that sometimes loving someone means letting them go. And that maturity might be the one thing that saves the Fisher brothers from destroying each other completely. Still, even with Jeremiah's blessing, even with Conrad's determination, and even with Belly's clarity, the ending is not going to be neat. The trailer makes that very clear. We will see tears, confrontations, and maybe even moments of rage. Because forgiveness doesn't happen in a single scene, and healing doesn't come with a smile. Belly's decision will ripple through every relationship in this story. Taylor will have opinions, Laurel will have doubts, Steven will take sides, And even Belly's Paris friends might weigh in. This isn't just a love triangle anymore. It's a domino effect that shakes every person connected to Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah. And when the dust settles, nothing will ever be the same again. And yet that's exactly why fans are counting down the seconds until this episode drops. We're not here for easy answers or perfect fairy tales. We're here for the messy, gut-wrenching truth. We want to see Belly's mask fall. We want to see Conrad finally fight for her. We want to see Jeremiah confront his heartbreak with dignity. And above all, we want to see whether love can survive the chaos it has created. Because The Summer I Turned Pretty has never been about perfection. It has always been about the beauty and the pain of growing up. And episode 10 promises to deliver that in ways we never expected. So when the trailer shows Belly's tears, Conrad's determination, and Jeremiah's quiet surrender, it's not just teasing another episode, it's showing us the breaking point of a story that has been building for years. This is the climax, the reckoning, the moment where childhood fantasies finally collide with adult realities. Belly can no longer hide, Conrad can no longer wait, and Jeremiah can no longer fight. The love triangle ends here, but the scars it leaves behind will shape them forever. And honestly, that's what makes this so addictive. We're not just watching a romance, we're watching the transformation of three people whose lives will never be the same. Episode 10 is not going to be gentle. It's going to be raw, it's going to be messy, and it's going to be unforgettable. Belly's Paris dream is over. Now it's time for her reality. And the reality is this: only one Fisher will walk away with her heart, but both will walk away changed forever.